So when I was 22 years old, something happened which completely shifted my beliefs and my mindset around money and wealth. And hopefully in this video today, you get some insights out of it that you can take with you, and maybe it'll shift your beliefs as well. So when I was 22, I just finished university. I'd come out with a psychology degree. I was ready to take on the big bad world, and I basically came out into a bar job which would fast track through to management because the people who worked there really liked me. Now, I sound really career aggressive there, but really I wasn't. Honestly, I was still in party boy mode from my previous years in university, and what that means is any opportunity at all to go out and get absolutely obliterated drunk, we would just do it. We would go and party at each other's houses whenever we were free. We would also go to any city with a decent club in England and just spend loads of money there and just get really wasted. And that's kind of what my life was like. That was our sole focus for those few years. And anyway, one day we were coming up to the weekend and my friend turns around to me and he says, my friend's cousin's uncle owns a house in the countryside and he's away for a weekend, and he's gave permission to my friend's cousin to actually host a house party there if he wants. And he was like, do you want to come? It sounds like something good to do. Even if we don't like the house party, we can pretty much get a taxi somewhere else and go out drinking in the nearest possible club or pub. And I was like, you know what? It sounds like a frigging great idea. So we organised to go up, and I didn't think anything really about it. I was a little bit curious, it's kind of strange. It was a 2-hour journey, a friggin' 2-hour journey to get to this place. So we ended up driving to this place, and when we arrived, it was in the middle of the countryside, and there was a little intercom system for a gate. And we rang the intercom, and they buzzed us through, and we could see the house in the distance, and it looks like it's a friggin' giant house. Anyway, we go through the gates and we start driving up this winding path, right? We're getting closer to this place, and it's obviously the house that we're gonna have this big house party at. And we get closer and closer, and it's frigging huge. This place is insanely big. It looks like a frigging hotel in a countryside, except it's not a hotel, it's a frigging mansion instead, a frigging 8-bedroomed, 16-bathroomed mansion. And what was even more surprising is when we drove up, there was all these amazing cars parked outside. And I'm there in my friggin' Ford Focus, tonic blue Ford Focus, driving up, right? You know, I've got a bit of a scratch down the side, and there's all these gleaming cars which, cost more than if I was gonna sell my kidney on the black market or something. And so we park up and we go in, and there's loads of people there, and we're having a good party. We get a little tour around the place, and there's loads of land around the place. It's beautiful place. There's a gym. There's an indoor gym. There's an indoor swimming pool as well. I've never seen anything like it other than in big hotels, right? So the drinks are flowing. We're all getting kind of drunk. We're gonna stay the night there, and it's my mind's just a little bit blown by how beautiful this place is, right? And how nice the people were as well there, but that's beside the point. And anyway, we're kind of mingling with everyone. We're just a chatty bunch of people, and we're chatting to different groups of people. And anyway, we chat to my friend's cousin about his uncle who owns the house, because the uncle's away, and he's obviously gave permission for my friend's cousin to host the party. And I was chatting to him, and I was like, man, does he own this place? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, what does he do? Because I thought the nice cars parked out front were actually people at the parties. They weren't. They were his uncles, right? And he was basically, my uncle works for He like runs his own consulting company, and this wasn't his only house. He had like houses in like, or properties in like America. He had like another one in like Norway, another one in like Spain as well. And he wasn't like, this was like his uncle who he got on well with, but was like on the other side of the family. So like his part of the family wasn't really attached to him. Anyway, he was telling me all this stuff, and I was like, wow, we were looking at all like the nice cars and that. Like, it's hard to focus at a party when there's all this going on, particularly I was a young lad, I'd never seen anything like this before. And I ended up saying to him, I was like, how much is this house? Like, how much, like, I couldn't even guess. Like, I didn't even have a concept of money back then. All I was used to earning was like £7 an hour or something. And he was like, he said it's roughly like £5 to £6 million, this house. And I was like, wow, that's insane. And I kind of stopped thinking about it, got back into the party, and then, you know, we got a bit more drunk. And then as the night went on, I remember, and you guys have probably felt this as well, have you ever been in like a social gathering or a party where suddenly you know, start to get like a little bit quiet, you go into a little bit spectator mode and you start just watching the conversations, and then you start thinking to yourself, I should really get myself involved here. And that kind of happened. But it wasn't happening because I felt like out of place there. It was happening because I was like completely blown away. And in my head, and this is where the mindset change came in my head I was thinking to myself, I could double or triple my salary today and work for the next 40 years, earning 45, 55, 60 grand, work for the next 40 years, save everything, which is impossible, right? You can't save everything out your earnings, right? You need food and that. You need a place to live, right? It's not how life works. And I still wouldn't be able to afford like a quarter of this house after 40 years, right? And I did like the maths quick in my head, and obviously I'm just kind of like, you know, repeating this to you now. So the maths probably a little bit wrong, but I remember sitting there really drunk and just having like this, my mind blown, and be like, how do people afford this? Like, how does that happen? You know, like I just couldn't get my head around it. I could work for 40 years and not afford this place at like triple my rate, right? And that's not even taking into like inflation and things like this. And I just remember sitting there thinking, this is impossible. Or what I'm doing now is making this impossible. Because it's obviously out there, right? If somebody can do this, it's obviously out there. And if one person can do it, then, you know, everyone can pretty much do it as long as they're in like the right place at the right time. I remember sitting there and honestly, like, I was a little bit jealous. I gotta be honest with you. I was like, the jealousy was coming out a little bit, not like out to anyone, but in my head I was thinking like, this is so unfair. Because I'd just come from watching like my mum struggle for years, you know, before I moved out for university. Like, she was really struggling. She was like the very low end of the scale, and like, you know, money wise, and like, this was like completely the opposite end of the scale, you know, where this person probably works very hard as well and he's earned everything there, but like the value of his time was priced completely differently, almost like he mattered more to the world and was making more of an impact on it. Or like the problems he was solving bigger, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And that right there completely like rewired my way of thinking. And because I could see it with my own eyes, right? I could see that the trajectory I was on was completely, you know, not the right path I should have been on if I wanted to have anything like this. It wouldn't, you know, it's not all about money, life is, but money does give you options, money does give you freedom, and money does give you choices to do more things that you want to do and make more of an impact on it. So that's kind of how I was viewing it. And I was like, my current role here, like, I'm pretty much, you know, eating shit every day. I was working 70 hours a week. So my 7-hour whatever, some £7 per hour or whatever it was back then, was actually devalued even more because I was salaried, right? So, you know, I was only getting paid for like 45 hours. I was working like 70 hours. So I was probably on like £5 an hour or something like that. And it just didn't make any sense to me. And I was like, this is, and I looked at like the people around me and thought about like the people in my life. Like this is over like the next month. And I could, you know, working in like a bar, you get to meet a lot of people. And I just thought like the majority of these people are all still in this same cycle, right? They could be 40 years older than me and they've still not achieved this other stuff. And this guy's uncle was apparently only like 45 or something. And I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. So my trajectory is completely wrong. And right then I knew that working in like the corporate space or working in like, you know, having an employer, like it's only going to get me so far. It's only so secure if you want the bare minimum. Right? And you can trick yourself all you want. That's just as it is, right? And then like over the next few years, I heard like different interviews from, you know, other highly successful people, people who made billions and people who, you know, made millions and millions and millions. And a lot of them were talking about like how they all had an experience like this, which actually showed them that other things were possible. Because until you actually see it yourself, you don't understand that other things are possible. Like you logically understand, but you don't like really understand. And there's a guy, he's quite like, he's worth a lot of money. He's like worth like 1 billion. And he's actually Donald Trump's friend. And I remember seeing something years ago where Donald Trump was talking about him and we were saying that before this guy was rich, he used to spend all of his money on first class everywhere. And he used to spend most of his free time going and looking at houses he couldn't afford and also going and sitting and test driving cars he couldn't afford either. And the reason why he was trying to rewire his brain and get it used to actually basically like accepting that you can get stuff like this in the world, because it's very easy to sit down and get trapped in this train of thought, these patterns that we're constantly in, that like this is all there is to life, there's nothing really more out there, and you know, this is just how things are. Right? And once you get trapped in that, it's almost like quicksand. It sucks you in suddenly. And this happened to me as well for a little bit. Suddenly I was working in this like management job for a little while and I forgot all about this. And basically the takeaway points is that to have something, whether it's, you know, more money, whether it's, you know, greater security or, you know, that fast car or, you know, even like the bigger house and things, your mind needs to, first of all, like appreciate that it's actually a thing and people can actually do that. And it's easy to sit there when you listen to this video right now and think, I logically understand this. But, you know, you have to actually experience it as well. And funny thing was, the very first month I had my first 5-figure month, I wrote in a planner, like a daily planner, I wrote in there, I will achieve 5 figures this month. And I've got the planner somewhere, and I kid you not, that very month, and like the phone call I closed, which brought the total to 5 figures, I remember grabbing my planner and running into like the living room to show my girlfriend and be like, I wrote this down this month. I've been in business a while and I've wrote this down this month, and I really visualized it when I wrote it down. And it sounds a bit like woo-woo and all that and a bit far-fetched out there, but there's definitely something in it. If you study highly successful people, they all have this kind of like this experience with things. So that's kind of my takeaway from this video. Try and put yourself in positions where you can see things like this. Maybe go and visit like a big house or something like that. Go and look at some really fast cars, something which is going to motivate you a little bit to make more money. Now, life isn't all about money. You know, I spent the majority of mine without like any, like we were very poor, like in, when my mum was bringing me up, very, very poor. Like we didn't have any money at all. And, you know, life's not really about that. But what I would do is I think it solves a lot of money problems, money does. So it's almost like something you should get. So if you're watching this video right now, I'd probably check what trajectory you're currently on. Like, look at the past, see where you want to go, and then start actually trying to experience some of these things that you want before you actually get them, because your mind needs to believe before you can actually do it. Sounds a bit woo-woo, but just try it out. I hope this video helps, and see you in the next one.